Joining me now is the Titan FC flyweight and bantamweight champion who defended his flyweight title for the second time against Alberto Orolano via first-round knockout at Titan FC 48 this past Friday. It is none other than Jose Shorty Torres back on the show. Jose, what's going on? How are you? Thanks for the time.
I'm great. I'm trying not to die of a food coma right now, but overall, I'm feeling phenomenal.
So was that the main celebration after the fight? Just eat as much as you can?
Definitely not eat as much as I could, but it was just one of those things that I haven't made flyweight in over a year, so my body just there was no salts, no sugars a week of everything. I got very, very slim, and I felt it looked great during the fight as well. But immediately after, I had sponsors wanting to get me food, and we all went out for a nice victory lunch the next day, and well, let's just say one meal, I definitely had a little too much, so I've been bloated and fat the rest of the day. Been wobbling everywhere.
What was on the menu exactly?
Oh man, I had besides it was a Mexican place, so it was a bunch of chips and salsa, steak nachos, a big old plate of enchiladas with rice and beans on the side, and then nutrition. I ended up having a nice walk in the beach with 2 scoops of ice cream.
Nice, nice. I guess I'll just sort of go off that and talk about the weight cut a little bit. As you said, you hadn't made the weight since the fight against Pedro Nobra, which was your first flyweight title defense back in January of 2017. So it had been a while. I know you working with Lou over at Nutrition. He got you down to 125, no problem. Well, I say no problem. Was there a problem? Like, was it a difficult cut, or did it go pretty well?
Surprisingly, it went pretty well. Given throughout the camp. I have to learn to train smart instead of harder. I think that's one of my biggest problems, that I go a little too hard and try to make 4 or 5 practices a day with other stuff, and I end up taking a toll on my body with the amount of food and the amount of water I'm able to drink throughout the day. So next time at least I know I have the notes to just train smarter. But overall it wasn't bad at all. It was a lot easier than I expected, and honestly, it really is because of nutrition. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to do it so smoothly.
So flyweight is still the preference?
This flyweight is 100% the preference. I mean,
Okay.
We see my last 3 fights at flyweight, all wins by knockout. Compared to a bantamweight, I've had 4 fights there. 2 of them have been finishes, but they've been by submission. I've been able to drop my opponents, and I've been able to hurt them, but it just the power difference is definitely on a different level.
Why do you think that is? Do you think like your power with the 10 pounds increase, your power doesn't translate, even though you're heavier, or is it that the heavier guys can take harder? Like why do you appear to be a heavier hitter at 125?
It definitely is true that heavier guys can take heavier blows, and these guys are much bigger, much taller, much longer than me. So even just getting in the right position against some of these guys, it just never happens compared to a 35. Compared to at 25, I'm right there, right in the face, and I'm more than likely faster than most of the guys. I've been faster than my last 3 opponents at flyweight, and I've been able to pop them plenty of shots and eventually be able to land that perfect one to where puts them out like Alberto did.
Well, considering this appears to be the final test for you before the UFC, and we'll talk about that, of course, a little bit later. Could this wouldn't have gone any better? I mean, a first-round TKO, you put him away quickly, late in the first round. Could it have gone any better?
Honestly, it went exactly as planned, and this is probably the first time something for me has ever worked out exactly as planned. My last 2 fights, again, have been spectacle fights, very, very fun to watch and very entertaining, but after the fact, I've been injured and having to sit out. One of them having to sit out for 6 months until I was able to fight again against Sharapov. And then the last one against Gleason Zeus, where I defended the belt, I had to sit out for about a month and a half because of just a bunch of shin kicks and I believe I had stitches over my eyes. So, I definitely had to wait a little while. But this one, I mean, there's nothing that makes me more happy to just fight and be able to relax. I'm 100% healthy. I'm 100% ready to get back in there, but I think the biggest thing right now is to still just feed off my hype and, see what's next for me. I don't believe I need to fight for Titan FC anymore. My contract will be up very, very soon, sometime this year. But even though there's still time for the contract, I want to wait. I don't think there's anything else for me to prove to the UFC. I think everything is right there, on the table. It's just their job to figure out what they want to do with me next.
And even though your Titan contract isn't up, of course, with it sort of with Titan having a good relationship with the UFC, you can jump over pretty much whenever.
Yeah, and they definitely understand. They are a UFC partnered promotion. So when it comes to any promotion on UFC Fight Pass, they go, hey, that's the UFC feeder program in a sense. They know where they're at, and they know where the UFC's at, and they know everyone wants to make it to the UFC, and that's my ultimate goal. And the UFC has called 7 times, 6 of them, sadly, I was injured, and the last one for UFC Charlotte, sadly, 2 UFC fighters actually denied the fight. Yeah. So it's either I'm injured or no one wants to fight me. So for me, I think this last fight was the perfect spectacle to show I'm ready for whomever. It could be, the very bottom of the bottom, the new guy, or it could be the Tim Elliott right in the middle, or it could be Demetrius Johnson right at the top. So I'm just excited for whoever's next.
In your last fight just a couple days ago, you said it went as planned. Were there any surprises at all, even the smallest of small surprises? Or literally did it, like from start to finish, was it everything you expected? Any surprises at all?
It definitely was everything I expected. Me, I'd love to come out as pristine as I did when I finished the fight, where I'm moving my head and throwing combinations and I'm going high-low, but it's just me every time I start. I'm a very, very slow starter. I like to get punched in the face. I have to feel out what my opponent's power is. I have to see his speed. I have to see what he's trying to throw. And, sadly, I took a couple shots in the beginning. Nothing really hurt. I did receive a small swollen eye, but, that's part of the sport. But either or, I think next time is just, try my best to be in the zone before I, have to get hit a couple times to do so.
As you said just a minute or so ago, injuries have been a big reason as to why you as of today are not a UFC flyweight fighter, because as you said, you got offered 7 times, 6 of them you were hurt, and then obviously the last one for Charlotte, guys turned you down. So no injuries coming out of this. Fingers crossed. Nothing to sideline you.
Yeah, no injuries besides this food coma for sidelining me for the day. No, I definitely don't have anything holding me back. I'm just happy to be back home, take a week to myself, rest in Chicago, see my family, enjoy the time, because I've been training at the American Top Team for about a month and a half, so I want to be able to enjoy myself a little bit, and then come on back. I'm actually going back a week later after my fight to start training again, just in case something comes up. And plus we got Kyoji Horiguchi fighting again, Adriano Moraes, everyone at American Top Team is just high-level guys, and if I'm not fighting, at least I want to be trained. You never say the same. You either get better, you get worse, and I want to get that much better.
Is not being hurt after the fight like the biggest relief you could have, other than the fact that you got the job done? You're still undefeated. You don't want to fall short, of course, but other than whether or not you would win or lose, is not coming out of this injured the biggest relief you could have?
I can tell you this, it's definitely different. It's definitely very, very weird. Ever since I first got injured and I broke my hand, and that every single fight, I'm now looking at myself before I jump in there going, I don't care what happens. Yes, I want to win, but let's just make sure I'm healthy, because it's, even if I win and I get injured, it's kind of like if I'm really losing, because I'm losing out on a bunch of opportunities. But again, things happen for a reason. I'm very, very relieved that I'm not injured, besides this food coma, but overall, I'm just happy that, I'm safe, I'm healthy, and I'm able to live the fight another day.
You said that after or going into your last fight against Gleison de Jesus, your bantamweight title defense in your last one, you weren't totally focused. It was difficult to stay focused on that when you felt you already deserved to be in the UFC. This one, I believe you said in a pre-fight interview, was a bit different. You were able to stay focused on this flyweight title defense. What changed? Why were you able to stay focused or more so on this one than your last one?
Nutrition is not just my weight management specialist, but he's also my mental coach. He just knows my ins and outs, and he knows exactly what to say to me to get me riled up, to get me going, and what, to me makes sense. And my last fight, I was so dependent on the UFC, thinking, oh, man, I should be there. I beat Sharapov. No one in the world's ever been a two-time world champ and defending at 5-0. That's the next best thing. I should be in the UFC, and sadly, just again, the cards just didn't play out well. Even though they were calling, I was expecting something to even pull me out before the fight. And by the time the Gleison fight came up, I was like, oh, I shouldn't fight him. I'm looking past him. He's not at my level. And it ended up being a much tougher fight because of it. I went in there thinking that I shouldn't be taking this fight, But then halfway through the fight, I'm like, oh, man, I'm getting beat up. I have to do something about this. Maybe I should really start going so my plans really don't start to affect me, like losing and now really being held back. But then this next fight coming up, Lou's like, hey, yeah, you're probably not going to fight someone you want to fight. You're not fighting somebody ranked anymore. It's not, the Pedro Nobrez, Farkhad Sharipov. It's not for a belt. You're not doing something that's, in a sense, spectacular like you've been doing earlier in your career. But, hey, it's another fight. They all matter. Whether it's in the UFC or now, it's something that, is going to make you who you are. And for me, I got to realize I got to accept every single challenge, and I got to have fun while I'm doing it. And for me, I got to make a living. That's UFC right now. And I just can't be dependent on something that, possibly might not happen, even though it's right there and that I'm sadly eating all the hype. Everyone's like, oh, you should be in the UFC, you should be this, you should be that. I got to kind of, swallow those down and just take it in and just keep on moving forward. And if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, then I have to just automatically accept that. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
So even though with that in mind, as long as you don't, go back down to ATT next week and break your leg the first day of training, something terrible happens, knock on wood, hopefully that doesn't happen, of course. There's no way you're not in the UFC for your next fight, is there?
We honestly never know. Yeah, I've said that my last 3 fights, and I'm honestly shocked that I'm still fighting for Titan, which, again, Titan's a fantastic promotion, and they've done so many great things for me. Again, they made me the person I am today and given me all the publicity that I've been able to get. But, it's the UFC is the next level. I believe I'm performing at that next level, showing in my last fight and my, I think just overall my whole career at 7-0. But, again, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But the next event, I believe, is in April for Titan FC. I know I've already told them that, hey, I want to wait and just see what happens. Even the guys at American Top Team told me not to take this fight. But for me, again, I got to take, I got to make a living. I got to make sure that I'm still building off my hype and doing the right thing. We took a very safe risk with Alberto. We got the knockout. Everything worked out well, and hopefully that is my trademark last fight for Titan FC and my trademark finish to show that the UFC needs to do something about it, and that's to sign me up there and make me fight some of the best.
So you've already talking to the Titan FC bosses, Jeff Aronson and Lex McMahon, about moving to the UFC since this fight? Have you already sat down with them?
And we've been in communications for the past 3 fights at the UFC all together, figuring out, because technically everything has to go through them since they do handle my contract. But, we've been figuring it out, and hell, I know they've contacted the UFC already after my last fight. I know they immediately texted Nick Maynard and Dana White and Sean Shelby just to go, hey, did you see that knockout? Did you see that? So, it's one of those things that, just waiting for the replies, seeing what's up. But with the UFC having so many events from the beginning of 2018 all the way until, I think we don't have a gap until maybe the second week of March, So, everything's being held back when it comes to recruiting guys and finding everything. Right now, the only thing they're trying to find is last-minute fights just in case of, little replacements like they did with me in UFC Charlotte. But, again, if they have the time, they have the time. If they don't, again, I'm just waiting, training, and staying as healthy as possible to keep on, being ready.
So Titan has been in contact with the UFC already since his last fight, but you personally haven't spoken to Mick Maynard, the UFC matchmaker?
Well, technically, I've personally never spoken to Mick Maynard. Mick Maynard has always contacted Titan FC, and they've been the messenger to relay the message and me reply back, stuff like that, because it's definitely unprofessional for me to have any of the matchmakers' numbers, because I would definitely harass the hell out of them. That would be me contacting every day. Hey, did you see the fight? What do you mean I'm not signed to the UFC? Come on, So it definitely would be very unprofessional of me, and I think that's also why Mick Maynard has me blocked on social media. But they've relayed the message. They showed me the messages. They have been doing a great job. And Titan FC is, again, they haven't just been contacting them. They've been begging for the UFC to take me because it's the right thing to do. Plus, if people have seen my pre-fight interviews, Alberto Oriano was kind of like the whole Apollo Creed-Rocky fight where, Apollo Creed was just looking for someone to sign a contract. No one wanted to fight me. I'm a person that believes in the ranking system, that I should fight the next person online, and sadly, I won the belt against the champion, defended the belt against number 1 guy. Well, the number 2, number 3, number 4 guy all denied the fight. They're all hoping that I move up to the UFC so they can get their own chance at their own little stardom in Titan FC. And, that they just don't want to go through me to get that. They go, hey, we want the next best guy. We don't want the best guy, and that's Shorty. So, we had to find somebody to sign a contract so I can still have a fight. And Alberto Oriano was the bravest guy, and that's also why in my post-fight interview, I gave him.
I think you cut out there for a second, but I think we got the gist of it. Obviously, UFC 225 is coming up in Chicago, Illinois, your hometown, June 9th. That's still a little ways out. We're about, just under 4 months. Is that enough, or do you want to take? Ideally, would you have another fight before the Chicago card?
Yeah. Like you said, that is 4 months. It's a very long time. I'm not a huge fan of long breaks like that. I'm just used to getting right back at it, and just say that I've been doing this since I was 4 years old. So, for me, I'm just so used to going, mainly when I'm not injured. I'm very happy right now. I'm very able to do whatever. So, if the UFC wants to do an event in a month or two, I'm more than happy to do it. My weight is low, and I'm ready to get back in there. But UFC Chicago is just it's my holy grail. It's my Madison Square Garden. That's the pinnacle of pinnacles for me, so I want to be able to, put on a show for the fans that I haven't fought in front of them almost 5+ years. This is my home, and this is the town that made me, the city that made me, and I believe that's honestly what makes sense, mainly with Curtis Blades here, Bilal Muhammad, and all the guys that I grew up with in the amateur rankings and now all being professional fighters. I think it's kind of like a storybook dream come true.
Well, Jose, hopefully it happens. You deserve it. I mean, I said that probably the first time I talked to you, which was, I don't know, you were probably 2-0 at the time, and maybe that was a little far-fetched, but you've deserved it for a long time, so fingers are definitely crossed, and thank you again for the time. Really, really appreciate it. And before I let you go, remind my audience where they can find you on social media, and if there's anybody you'd like to thank or give a shout-out to, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's always a pleasure. Again, if anyone wants to follow my career, Jose Shorty Torres on Instagram, Jose Shorty Torres with quotations around Shorty on Facebook, and Shorty Torres 125 on Twitter. And if anybody wants to support the team, buy Team Shorty apparel, everything ships worldwide, teamshorty.com. And also, lastly, with that being said, every time a competition comes up for my team, for the kids, needing money to travel and stuff like that, 20% of all my earnings at teamshorty.com goes to the kids in my gym so they can have the same opportunity I was able to get. To just travel, train, compete, and then see if this is what they want to do in life and not get the confidence to do, other things and achieve their goals. So I appreciate all the support, guys, and just remember, we will together. We are Team Shorty.